Good evening, First Ladies. Welcome to yet another episode of the Quintessential First Lady. I remain your host, Pastor Mercy Peters. On the last episode of the Quintessential First Lady, I educated our mommies, sisters, and aunties on how to be called a quintessential First Lady by learning how to cook and knowing how to cook. But today, I'm focusing on you as a quintessential woman being interdependent, because many women carry the logo, I am independent. But let me let you understand one thing. In the world who got their independence, but they still and are still depending on other countries for certain things. So first and foremost, what is interdependency? From my English dictionary, interdependent to be interdependent and never dependent or independent. So after this short break, I will be back to educate our first ladies on how to be interdependent. Stay tuned and be blessed. Welcome back. So in reality, there is no man that can depend only on themselves. I have never seen a man who says, I can depend only on myself. Rather, every man must depend on another, and the other depend on another for a particular thing in life. So as a quintessential woman, you are to be a helper to your husband, and your husband also should be a help to you, because you two must do what? Be dependent on each other. Be dependent on each other. You two must do what? Have interdependency. Remember in Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, God knew it would be good that the man lives with a helper. Yes, he knew it will be good for a man to live with a helper in which he can depend on. So in verse 21 of Genesis chapter 2, God caused Adam to sleep, and he formed a helpmate suitable for him, comparable, and she became the bone of his bone and the flesh of his flesh. Meaning he knew man cannot be independent on his own. He knew man cannot do things on his own. So he created a helpmate that is suitable and compatible and will be a helper to man. So he gave man a dependent who will help him physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even sexually. Yes, I have heard many women call themselves alpha woman. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think you should choose not to carry that logo of an alpha woman, because you can never be independent completely in your life. I don't believe that there is any human on earth that can actually be independent on their own. Never. So rather, choose to be interdependent. Interdependent, that is both dependent and independent. Some persons think that the notion of being dependent is taken as a weakness, and the notion of being independent is taken for strength. Is it really a weakness? Let me ask you. For you to be dependent at times, is it really a weakness? Can you be really and totally independent always in life? I know of a woman who claims to be totally independent. She calls herself the alpha woman, but ran out of her business funds due to some certain life challenges and had to ask the husband for some funds to invest in her business. Is she totally independent? If I may ask you, is she totally independent? I guess no, because if she is, she will try her best to own everything on her own and generate more funds for her business on her own, and not also doing what? Going back to the husband or another person for help. I also know of a woman who was always saying, she's an independent woman, carrying that logo of independency. I can do all things. I don't need help. Nobody should help me. But let me tell you, she always needed assistance from her staffs. As a CEO, she was always looking for assistance from her staffs to do what? To attain certain goals in her company, thereby making her successful in business. So if I may ask you, if the staffs were not helping her in some certain areas which she as the CEO couldn't help herself, so is she really independent? I think no, she's not really independent. She is interdependent, because if she was independent, she would have created her own ideas, done everything on her own, and became successful on her own. Let me tell you, you might think, oh, I became successful on my own. I don't believe you became successful on your own. You got ideas from somewhere, you got funds from somewhere. Someone out there might have been the one assisting you in some certain areas in which you never ever knew you could, do on your own, and became successful. So it doesn't make you independent. You were interdependent. That is why you became successful. Being independent is the state of wanting or being able to do things for yourself and make your own decisions without the help or influence of others. So have you ever sat down on your own to do everything on your own and you became successful? No, you were never created like that. God created us, humans, to be interdependent. So never call yourself an independent woman. You are independent and also dependent. That makes you interdependent. Let me make you to understand this. We are dependent on each other for certain things in life. Perhaps we can look at reducing the brightness of the halo around independency and embracing interdependency in our family life, business, and our career as a quintessential woman. Meaning, you lean on me, I lean on you. So as a quintessential woman, you lean on your spouse, he leans on you. You watch his back, he watches your back. Proverbs 31 verse 11, verse 12 from my Amplified Bible Classic says, the heart of a husband trusts in her confidently and relies on and believes in her securely, so that he lacks no lack of honest gain or need of dishonest spoil. Verse 12 says, she comforts, encourages, and does him good all the days of her life. So the husband is dependent on her for comfort. There are certain times your husband cannot comfort himself, but because he is dependent on you as a quintessential woman, you give her you give him comfort. He is dependent on you for honesty and confidence. Let me tell you something. There are certain men who are not confident when they are doing certain things in life, but God gave them a partner, a helpmate that is suitable, compatible, you understand, that can help them to have their confidence back, and that makes them dependable on each other. 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 from my Weymouth Bible says, but if a man makes no provision for those dependent on him, and especially for his own family. He has disowned the faith and he is behaving worse. Some Bible scripture says he is worse than an infidel. So this makes me really understand that the husband is the head family, and his family also depends on him. You see, the husband depends on the wife for certain things, and the wife and the children, also depend on the husband for some certain things. So what is this called, my sister? It is called interdependency, nothing more. It is called interdependency. For God to create your spouse and made you two to become one flesh, he made it so you can be interdependent on each other. So have this at the back of your mind. There is no human that never needs another human to depend on certain things, thereby assisting in helping them achieve certain goals in life. I have seen many women who assist their spouse when they have financial crisis, and their spouse do same when they are financially buoyant. So if these partners were totally independent or dependent on themselves alone without being interdependent on each other, will happiness dwell among them? I guess no. Will joy dwell amongst them? I guess no. Bitterness can sprout out because the husband is not with money as at that time to support the family, and the wife too is not with finances to support that family at that time. But if the wife was doing something, the husband knows, my wife is going to definitely do what? Help out till I get back on my feet. So it is always good to be interdependent. So take this for tonight. A happy home is dependent on each other for help, because when a problem is fixed in a home by the partners involved, a happy home is established. Also, living and working corporately makes us healthier, happy, and more successful in life. That's why studies revealed that couples who were dependent on each other grew more successful than others who claimed they are independent on themselves. God created you to be one, thereby leaning on each other. Please, as a quintessential woman, drop that independent lifestyle and adapt the interdependent lifestyle. Remember, your children are watching what you do at home. They are watching every day. They are learning from you every day. How you lean on your spouse and how he leans on you. That is what they will also learn and do when they grow up and have their own family. So in conclusion, learn how to be interdependent physically, sexually, emotionally, and spiritually on your spouse. As a quintessential woman, I believe with these few points of mine, I have been able to convince you that interdependency is good for every quintessential woman. Interdependency is good for every family that wants to be successful. So see you same time next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. West African time for another episode of the Quintessential First Lady. I celebrate you all. God bless. Bye.